All right, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at a figure that I've been pretty excited for a while and managed to pick one up just today, actually. And yeah, today we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Studio Series 86 Gnaw. We finally got our Studio Series Sharkticon here for the 1986 movie. And yeah, he's a great little figure. Here we have him in his Sharkticon mode proper. And it's all right. It's not perfect, and there are some ways in which I feel like previous versions of the this mold has gotten it, or not this mold, this character has gotten it better. But yeah, here he is. In terms of articulation, his feet, which connect way back here, are on swivels right there. They can hinge out to the side. He's got I guess, a thigh swivel in this mode, a knee bend that bends about that much, and you like these just end up being the the robot mode arms, so you get all the articulation that comes with that. His little arms here at the top, they're on a swivel right here and a hinge right here. Kind of wish that his hands were oriented the other way, so he had like the grabby claws kind of, rather than having them out to the side. Or, I mean, this is such a thin piece, I wouldn't expect them to put like a wrist swivel in there, but I do kind of wish his hands were the other way. His tail here is on, I mean, it's just pegged in because this becomes one of his weapons in robot mode. So it's got that swivel right there, and it also has a hinge here at the base, which gets, not a tremendous amount of movement, but enough to, you know, put the tail in a few different poses to give some expressiveness. And then the mouth here, the bottom jaw, can go from here to all the way out here, which unfortunately kind of reveals the robot mode head. Like it blends in, I guess, okay, because it's taking the spikes on the back of the robot mode head and kind of making it look like he's got like a saw blade or something in his mouth. But it does kind of stick out since it's a little obvious that it is the head. But and then the top jaw here can fold open and close about that much. And it kind of takes the arms with it. I mean, you can move the arms separately, but the joint that they're attached to is just attached to this piece. So by default, the arms move with it. So yeah, that's the full extent of the mouth being open, and it looks all right. I'm not thrilled about the head being in there. Like, really, my main issues with this mode are pretty much just the fact that like the arms are just like super far forward, like they're sort of like coming out of his ears rather than being attached like back here, I guess, which is where they really should be. And the legs are super far back, so he's got just kind of strange proportions. Like, it's not terrible, it's just when you're comparing it to previous versions of this guy, like the Titans Return version, I feel like generally the proportions on this guy are a little bit better in terms of having just this little piranha robot. Like, obviously, there are things that I like about this guy better, like mainly the color scheme is much more accurate to the movie. He's a little bit bigger, which I like. And a lot of the sculpted detail is a lot nicer, and the tail is much more of an actual thing, whereas he just has this little piddly tail. But all that being said, I think proportionally this guy just kind of works out a little bit better. I like that his hands, have the claws facing down. I don't like that his tail falls off all the time, but whatever. I like the position of his arms and legs a lot better. And I like that you can't see the head quite as much in the mouth there. So, I don't know. Some things could be better. Some things are, worse. It's just, the one thing that I like about Sharkticons is that like every time I get a new version of like a lot of other G1 characters, it feels like it's replacing the previous one. So then, I now have this figure that I don't necessarily need anymore that I've replaced with a new figure. Whereas with Sharkticons, it's all just more to the swarm, like I like having kind of different Sharkticons that are, all turned into relatively the same thing, but have kind of their own vibes and stuff like that. So like a few of these guys, it's all cool. Every time we get new Gnaws and new Sharkticons, it just increases the army building swarm for me. So I don't, even if they're not perfect every time, it doesn't bother me as much. But yeah, before we get into the rest of the comparisons, he also does come with a little handgun here, which storage for this mode, you just take this peg and it goes into this slot right here, or this little hole right here. And yeah, I mean, okay, like it's not really the kind of storage that I like, where we're just pegging the gun onto the outside of the alt mode, but whatever, it's not the end of the world. For me, I don't really need my Sharkticons to have guns, because like the weapons that I have them holding is the little mace weapon. So for me, I'm gonna put it out to the side and leave my Sharkticons looking a little bit cleaner, but that is an option, and that is a thing that he comes with. So yeah, into comparisons, we obviously showed him off with the original Titans Return Sharkticon, but here he also is with the repaint of that Sharkticon that came with the has. I guess what is it? The HasCon exclusive set, the Pit of Judgment. But yeah, that's what they look like together. Just so you can see a few Sharkticons side by side. Here he is with the Quintesson Alicon in his alligator mode, and they look pretty cool together. Who else? Here he is with the Quintesson Judge. Again, this is the version that came with the Pit of Judgment set. I never found or got the regular version. Whatever. That's what they look like together. And just for posterity's sake, here he is with Kingdom Sideswipe, just for a standard size comparison, although, Shark, Car, whatever. And then here he is with Studio Series 86 Cup in his robot mode, just so you can see how he scales, in this mode with a sort of average size relevant deluxe. But yeah, overall, I'm a little hot and cold on the actual Sharkticon mode. It's all right. I just, it's got a few key points in which I feel like it could have easily been a little bit better, mainly just proportionally bringing those arms and legs closer to each other. But from some angles, he relatively looks pretty okay. So yeah, transformation-wise, he's got actually a pretty neat transformation. So first of all, we're going to start off by removing his tail, obviously. We'll put that off to the side for right now. And then you take this whole back section and it kind of pegs in right here, just like that. And then there's a couple tabs on this little armature that go into these purple sections. So you just want to bring all of that up for right now. And then in here, you've got his legs folded up, which is pretty neat. And then you just unfold them. They kind of tab in. There's a hole right here that goes into a little peg right there. And you just unfold them at this blue section to complete the leg there, and then flip out the heel. And then do that on both sides. Then you want to take this gray section here that the legs were kind of slotted into, and to fold that flat all the way there. There's a couple pegs. I mean, mostly it just locks in just from, the friction of that joint, but there are a couple, tabs in there that are supposed to tab into this white piece, but doesn't really, but it doesn't really need to either, so it doesn't matter. And then you take this white piece, and this is the cool part, and the whole thing slides around like this to create the body. And then just to get these out of the way, you want to take this section here. There's a couple tiny little tabs on this light gray armature piece that will they don't really tab in place. It's just like giving them a place to sit, but right here on this section. And then the thing that really locks this piece in place is this little plug, plus-shaped plug here will go into where the tail was plugged in, which kind of all, you don't really need to necessarily know where that stuff is pegging in. It just kind of naturally happens when you just bring the piece back. And then they want you to take the fin here, which is just pegged in, by the way, like in the packaging. They want you to take that and rotate it up. Sure, whichever. I mean, I do it just because it's a step in the transformation and it differentiates, its placement a little bit, but it doesn't really matter one way or the other. And then you take his shark mode hands here and rotate them to the back like this. They kind of just sit along his back. Then you can take his hands here, are just folded on the inside of the shark mode feet. Shark mode feet sounds weird. You know what I'm talking about because he's a Sharkticon. And then you take the bottom jaw, just fold it down like that, and then his head just folds up like this. And you kind of want it, not sitting just like flush with the piece that it's on, because then he's looking straight down. You want to angle it up a bit more than that so he can look over his set of teeth there. And there you have Gnaw the Sharkticon in his robot mode. And yeah, he looks great. I may have my gripes about the shark mode itself, but this guy, when especially comparing it to the Titans Return Sharkticon, which we'll do in a bit, just really blows that out of the water. Like, he looks so much better than that guy did. And I love his little chubby proportions, his little stupid boots. He just looks dumb in the best way possible because he looks dumb in the way that he did in the movie, and it just looks really good. Um, so you can have him hold his weapons, obviously. Unfortunately, neither of them really have any form of storage in this mode. I guess you could take like this one and move the arm out of the way in some way and then peg it in how it was in shark mode, and then I guess bring the arm down over it. You could do that. I don't think it looks particularly good, but again, I was going to put the gun to the side anyway. And you know, it would bother me a lot usually if there was no storage for like a melee weapon that was an inherent part of the alt mode. Or in robot mode, like that would really bug me. But with my Sharkticons, like I don't know, they feel like little savage warriors anyway, who would pretty much always be holding their weapon, so it doesn't bother me as much. But you know, it doesn't have anywhere to store, which in concept at least kind of sucks. But yeah, you could, I guess, take this out. I mean, it's really only like so it's for the packaging is why it's disconnectable. Like if you take this section too, you can actually slide this whole this section off because it comes packaged separately just for, you know, how it fits in the box. And then, you know, how you connect that when you first get it is you just take this section and pull this section up just so you can slide this in there. And then when you fold it back down, like it kind of hides that joint so you can't actually, you know, move it side to side anymore. And it's a stiff enough joint anyway, but worth mentioning. But yeah, I mean, I guess you could have him hold this like it because of his like toes here from the Sharkticon mode. You can't really have him hold it like in a super appealing way, but that is an option. It is a 5mm peg, but you know, I'm just going to leave that connected back here. In terms of articulation, his head is on a ball joint. You know, it can rotate, but it rotates at kind of a weird angle just because of how it angles up like that. It still looks relatively good, just, you know, worth noting. The shoulders here are still on swivels. Again, same articulation as in the shark mode. Now his thigh swivel has become a bicep swivel. He's got a bend there at the elbow, which is pretty nice deep elbow bend. And then the wrists don't rotate, but they can, you know, move in and out a little bit like that. Nothing at the waist, just because of that whole like torso flip. It just kind of eliminated the ability for there to be a cut at the waist. The hips can move forward, back, out to the side. He's got a thigh swivel. His knee proper gets about 90 degrees. You could use the boot cut, the boot hinge as a separate knee. I think it looks super strange just because, you know, really it's meant to be like this is in the middle of his shin, so it being able to bend there looks really odd, but you can do it. I wish this kind of like tabbed in a little bit better or at all, just so because like it's not as tight a joint as the knee itself, so it tends to try to move before you move the knee joint, which can be a little bit annoying, but not the end of the world. And then he's got a big silly ankle cut, which if you're doing really dramatic poses, I don't think looks very good because it has just this wedge cut out of his boot. But in slight poses where you just want, you know, a slight wider stance, I think it looks fine just because you're not really like seeing straight into that gap from most angles. So yeah, pretty decent articulation for a chubby little guy. Yeah, here he is again with our previous Sharkticons, the two variations of that mold. And like, you know, I might have harped a little bit on his alt mode compared to theirs. Like I think generally, like aside from colors and size and stuff, I think that they do a better job with the Sharkticon mode. But the robot mode is absolutely night and day. Like he is way better than they are in robot mode. These guys with their, you know, awkward little proportions, holding the weapon the wrong way, having these huge kibble chunks on the back of their feet instead of just having it behind their head like it's supposed to be. Like he's just much better. Like he just looks tremendously better than they do. So it's like, yeah, I mean, I think that the Sharkticon mode, when you're comparing the two of them, like there's pros and cons. I like him better in some aspects. I like them better in other aspects. Ultimately, proportionally, I think they work a little bit better. But robot mode is absolutely no contest. Like he is much better in pretty much every conceivable way. Here he is again with our Alicon. just so you can see what they look like together. They're, pretty much the same height. I think he might be a tiny bit taller at the eye level, but not by a whole lot. Here he is again with, well, not again, for the first time. Here he is with the bailiff, I guess they would call him, from the Pit of Judgment set, just so you can see what he looks like with that version of that mold. Here he is again with the judge himself. And yeah, I mean, I feel like probably the Quintessons were a bit bigger compared to the Sharkticons in the movie, but I still feel like that works relatively well. Here he is again with Studio Series Cup, just so you can see what they look like. Here he is again with Kingdom Sideswipe, just for that standard size comparison. And since I got multiple of these guys, because I like to army build my Sharkticons, here he is with himself in, in Sharkticon mode. So you can see what they look like there, how that size works out, if that's something that interests you. But yeah, so I mean, pretty much that's all there is really to say about him. He's a great little figure. I still feel like, there are some ways in which the shark mode itself was a little bit disappointing to me, but overall, I think he's a much more generally successful figure than our previous versions of our Sharkticons. So I still feel like, if you only want one kind of Sharkticon to army build, and the price difference doesn't matter to you, like he's a better figure for sure. Like even if the Sharkticon mode in some ways is not quite as good as the other one, like still it's got the colors, it's got the size, it's just proportionally a little bit strange. So I would still recommend this version. I like him a lot better than the previous Sharkticons. But like I said not last time, like I said before, it doesn't really make a difference for me, like picking between one and the other, because like every time we get new Sharkticons, it just means that I get to make my little swarm of Sharkticons that much bigger. I like to army build them, have a few of each of them every time I get new Sharkticons. So he's a welcome addition, even if he wasn't as good as the previous version. And I think he's better. So, that's neither here nor there, just some stuff to consider if you're looking to pick this guy up. But yeah, if you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And without further ado, here we have Transformers Studio Series 86, Gnaw.